Hello, everyone. My name is Marie Matucci, and welcome to the Beauty Vault podcast. I am here with skincare pioneer Jan Marini. She is the founder of Marini Skin Solutions. I am so thrilled. We are so honored to have you here today.
I have been so excited, and this is such a privilege to be here. Thank you so much. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to being able to chat.
Yeah, so many of my clients are waiting for this interview to drop because you have so many interesting things to say.
Thank you.
You're one of those people I could throw any topic at you. Retinol, go. And you'll just, you sound like you're like a scientist.
Hopefully. I haven't been stumped yet, but you never know.
Well, let's start with the fact that you have been around for 30 plus years.
Over 50 years.
Over 50 years in this industry. That is absolutely incredible. I mean, it's hard enough to break into this industry as a skincare line, let's say. And the fact that your career has spanned decades really is a testament to your products. And I know firsthand how amazing these products work because I'm in this extraordinary opportunity right now where you put me on the Marini Skin Solutions that you customized for me. Mm-hmm. We talked about my skin and things that I would like to correct, and you put together this regimen for me. I have been on my own particular skincare regimen for the past 5 years. Nothing's been able to get me to switch until now. And you had said to me, I'm going to have you do this vitamin C twice a day. No, thank you. No, you're going to do that. I'm going to put you on this retinol. I don't want to do retinol. No, mine's different. So we're going to talk about this because your products are different. And I am having such a different experience with your products than I've ever had with any of these other products they're anything like them. So we'll dive into all of that. However, let's start here. Let's go back to the beginning of your journey and getting into developing your own line. How did you do that?
Okay. Well, first of all, I've been a product researcher for well over 50 years. Mm-hmm. Now, that didn't start off in the industry because there really wasn't an industry.
Right.
But I was an ingredient expert.
Yes, you are.
And I lectured to physicians, medical professionals, and skincare professionals. And as time went on, I did a lot of talk shows and a lot of radio and television because people love to hear about ingredients, what works, what doesn't work. And as time went on, I began to develop associations with physicians and researchers literally all over the world. And I started to focus more on research and development and uncovering breakthrough technologies. And I always qualify breakthrough because who out there doesn't say that their technology is a breakthrough? Does anybody ever say, we have the second best product? No. But these were things that really weren't in the marketplace. And as an example, I was an early glycolic acid pioneer. Mm-hmm. Glycolic acid didn't exist in a drugstore or department store. You couldn't buy it commercially. You could get it for cleaning stains off your driveway, grease out of car engines, which makes it sound really terrible, but it's not. Now, around 1989 going into 1990, I financed and brought to market a product line. It was actually two lines. It was MD Formulations and MD Forte. And that was literally the first glycolic acid product line that was sold commercially. And not only that, it was another first. This was the first line that was ever sold out of a physician office. Now, let me tell you what the climate was like back then.
Yeah.
Doctors were incensed that someone would suggest that they would sell product out of their office. They said cosmetics. They didn't even say skincare, cosmetics.
Yeah.
And of course, today, who doesn't have product coming out of their office? So this is actually one of the most difficult times, most challenging times I've ever had in a career. And this is my fourth company today, Marini Skin Solutions, which, by the way, was Jan Marini Skin Research until about a year ago. Changed the name. And
you gave it a reboot.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
And so today, again, it's commonplace that physicians carry products in virtually every specialty. And that company, the MD Formulations, MD Forte, and some of you may remember that company, was actually sold to Allergan. And literally, on July 1, 1994, took down the MD Formulations sign, put up the Jan Marini Skin Research sign, And here we are. I think we're going to be going on our 32nd year in July, but who's counting?
Yeah. It's incredible. When you first started your skincare line, I mean, the climate looked completely different back then.
Mm-hmm.
There was no social media. You've told me stories about how you were making phone calls to the local news stations asking to get on. And I mean, you were doing all of that on your own.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, first of all, there was no internet.
Right.
There was a phone book. So, I mean, you go through the yellow pages because you're looking for physicians. And also, secondarily, that's always been our primary marketplace, physicians and medi-spas, except there weren't medi-spas back then. Sure. And secondarily, licensed skincare professionals. It's kind of a trickle-down effect because doctors don't say, oh, gee, what are the estheticians using? But the estheticians, skincare professionals, they want to know, what are physicians using? So we wanted to include those professionals as well. And I literally would contact state boards and give you an example. Back then, and I'm talking about 1989 going into 1990, the State Board of California had over 50,000 estheticians. Now, were they all practicing? I don't know.
Right.
So I wanted to get a list. They send you a list. It's not even peel-off stickers. I would literally, on some nights, stay up all night long handwriting advertising material to these estheticians, doing the same thing with doctors to get established and to get some awareness. And it was just, there were some conferences and things like that in the skincare market. The very first conference that I ever presented product at a medical conference, there were 2 tables. So it's never been done before. Mm-hmm. One was a drugstore product called Tie Screen, which I think is still out there. And then there was my little 6-foot table. And in this big conference room, at this big meeting room, was about 500 doctors. And I didn't know when they were going to be coming out. I'm standing there, and I think I was eating my lunch at the time, and all of a sudden the doors open. And our table was swarmed because the key speaker had mentioned us. And glycolic acid was this huge phenomena. And the table was swarmed. And the next thing I knew, my products were gone, and somebody had eaten my lunch. But
sorry about that.
That was the first. Yes, that was the first time that there was a product like this at a medical conference, and then it evolved. So now sometimes we'd be in a room, and there would be 4 or 5 different tables, and it might be breast implants, and it might be instruments. But I'd be the only skincare company. Well, think about it today. You go to the American Academy of Dermatology or these major conferences, and I used to do about 40 a year. And there's a huge present from skincare companies, including even companies like Clinique or Estee Lauder that just want to generate that kind of awareness.
Yeah.
Different climate.
People who are in the top 1% of success stories like you, there's sort of that common thread between the people like you where you hear the grit and the determination and the blood, sweat, and tears. Not everybody has that. So it really takes a lot of determination and passion to get even in the vicinity as to where you are. Now, let's talk about glycolic acid. Mm-hmm. I think that there is a lot of a misinformation about glycolic acid. One thing that I really want to say is, in terms of using a product made by Marini Skin Care Solutions that has glycolic acid in it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend someone saying, oh, well, Jan Marini's talking about glycolic acid, so it must be amazing. So I'm going to go into some little store and get this glycolic acid toner. I think that people don't realize that just because it shares the same name, it's going to do the same thing.
It's very nuanced.
Yes. And so that's the thing with your glycolic acid and your vitamin C and even your retinol. I have had reactions to all 3 of those ingredients from different lines, or let's say, a retinol that I would get at a medical spa. And I am using now all 3 of those ingredients with Marini Skin Solutions. And everybody is telling me, Marie, your skin is looking amazing. right? And so it's interesting. So let's talk about glycolic acid.
Yeah, let's explore that a little bit.
Let's explore that a little bit.
Okay. So first of all, glycolic acid is an alpha hydroxy acid. Okay, that's number one. Number two, it's the smallest molecule of all the alpha hydroxy acids. So you can talk about tartaric acid or you can talk about lactic acid. They can't get into the follicle the same way. Glycolic acid, number one, is an anti-inflammatory. And let me just state this. Of all the cosmetic ingredients, skincare ingredients in the entire world that have been studied medically, and we're talking about histological studies, we're talking about biopsies, medical conferences. Think of all the ingredients out there that you see on labels. Of all of them, two have been studied more than any other in the world. One is glycolic and one is the retinoids. So at the simplest level, what glycolic acid does, and again, it's an anti-inflammatory, aging is an inflammatory disorder. You look at the mirror and you touch the surface of your skin, that's your stratum corneum. It's dead layer. Now, when those cells lay like shingles on a roof and really organize, they reflect light and you have this radiance and it looks dewy and everything looks nice and plump because between those cells, you have these hygroscopic substances, mucopolysaccharides and ceramides and phospholipids and hyaluronic acid, give their skin volume. They give it barrier function. Now, as we start to age, and this starts even in our very early 20s, that layer thickens and you want it to be really thin and compact like a baby skin, but you want your dermis, which is 80% collagen, to be really thick and robust. So it thickens. The cells pile up. And it's a medical term for it called increased corneocyte cohesion. Skin looks duller. Pores look larger, not as reflective. Not only that, but it affects your barrier function because the thicker it gets, the less your barrier function, less efficient it is. And you start to lose those hygroscopic substances. People say, oh, Jan, somebody's letting the air out of my face. Now, what glycolic acid does at the simplest level, it dissolves and dislodges the glue-like substance or cellular cement between cells. Now, I refer to that as resurfacing. Because when you exfoliate, even if you're using the finest granules, what's happening is you're creating inflammation and microscopic tears in the skin. So what this does, this normalizes it. It's even used for mild to moderate psoriasis because it normalizes the cell turnover. I mean, it's a miracle ingredient. That's all I can say.
When it's made by Marini Skin Solutions.
Well, I think glycolic acid in general, but yes, there's some certain things about it. So it stimulates those hygroscopic substances between the cells. Technically, it's categorized as a moisturizer.
It's crazy because so many people have said to me that glycolic acid will dry them out.
Other ingredients will dry them out. So here's the other thing about glycolic. So it's this tiny molecule. We like to think everything gets in our follicle. No, that's wrong. Because cleansers and things like that, the molecules are too big. But glycolic gets in the follicle, and it is so tiny that it's actually used in a lot of topical prescription products as a drug delivery system. So it gets in the follicle, and on the surface, what it's doing is dissolving and dislodging the glue-like substance. It gets into the follicle, and it dissolves and dislodges the glue-like substance between cells in the follicle. Now, this is key. Because when the cells in the follicle stick together, that's the beginning of the acne process. Doesn't matter whether you have mild acne, whether you have really severe acne, it's all the same process. So it helps interrupt the acne process. And the other thing that glycolic acid does, thickens your dermis by about 33%. Now, I want everybody to think about this. Dermis is 80% collagen. Over your lifetime, you're going to lose about 85%. If you don't do anything, and this is fine, no judgment, but it's going to look like you have this big paper sack that's all wrinkled with a little head inside. So 33% is substantial. I've never seen a product in the commercial marketplace, drugstore departments, I've never seen anything like that can do that. Now, we've got something that can go beyond that, which we'll talk about. But glycolic acid is a miracle worker. And when it was hitting the marketplace, the physician marketplace in the early 90s, there were entire medical conferences focused on nothing but glycolic acid. In 1992, I think there was one in Florida that was 3 days long. Because what it does for acne scarring, what it does for the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, what it does for de-aging the skin is phenomenal.
One of the things that you said that was really eye-opening to me, I deal with a lot of people that get congestion in their nose or here. And you said, that's acne. I said, what? That's acne.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
I mean, for me, it was clogged pores and sebum and things like this. I didn't ever look at it in that sense. So that sort of changed things for me. Now I'm using glycolic acid in your cleanser.
Mm-hmm.
And I am using glycolic acid in your product BioClear.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I have had zero dryness, and my skin, I feel like it just keeps getting brighter and dewier. And I also feel like it's sort of spongy.
Well, let me mention one thing, because you talked about, the formulations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, from a medical standpoint, everything that you hear medically and the collagen production and all of these things is in a very specific focus at a pH of around 3.25 for home care.
Right.
You go above that, what happens is you get the salt of the acid, which means it's very weak. Doesn't mean it doesn't do anything. You go below that, you can actually have collagen breakdown. Then you take and you put surfactants and things with that, and what you've got is something that's going to be possibly cause the skin to be reactive. So, for example, with the cleanser, I'm formulating it in a base that's very similar to Cetaphil lotion. Now, most people that are watching, they've heard of Cetaphil, because if you have an allergic reaction or you say, I can't use any cleanser, doctor sends you to the drugstore, you get Cetaphil,
Mm-hmm.
and it literally can be used on the most reactive skin because it's just so bland.
Yeah, they use it in hospitals.
So I don't need anything else in there
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be aggressive. It's the glycolic acid that I want to work.
Yeah.
So the pH is really critical. There are other things that are extremely critical in this formula. I've had physicians who have said, I don't wash my face in the morning, or I only use this because my skin is so reactive. It's their favorite cleanser.
Yeah.
So it's a misnomer to look at this as somehow it's going to be aggressive or it's going to have that effect on the skin. It's probably the most gentle cleanser I make, and I make 2 other cleansers that are not glycolic.
Right. I have one of my clients, Claire, on the full Marini skin solution for the combination skin.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw her yesterday, and we were both discussing that cleanser and saying that our skin feels so clean after. I've never felt like that with any other cleanser. And, you're talking about these formulas and how you create them. And I've worked with chemists, and it can be daunting. And I also know for sure that a lot of other people making skincare products don't even care a smidge as much as you care.
Well, thank you.
It's the truth, and you know that. And there is so much garbage that's out there. And so I feel like I'm in such an extraordinary position to have you guiding me through these amazing skincare products. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is your C Siesta, your vitamin C, because before I met you, I had sworn off vitamin C. And there was a particular brand that I was using before I was using Marini Skin Solutions. And it's funny because that rep had said to me, have you ever tried our vitamin?
You were using that, or you were using our brand?
No, before Marini Skin Solutions.
Okay, gotcha.
I was using a different brand. You know what it is. I don't want to say it.
I won't say it.
And the rep said, have you ever tried our vitamin C? I said, yes, I have. And within 3 days, my skin was completely red and irritated, with just like every other vitamin C on the planet. And I told her that I was going to start using yours. And she said, I have to tell you, that is the one vitamin C that I always circle back to. She will go out and explore different products, and she always comes back to that one. I can understand why. It is such a beautiful serum, this C Siesta, and you formulate this completely differently. We've had conversations about this, so let's talk about why your vitamin C is so different.
Okay, well, first thing I want to talk about is that you're in a very broad category.
Yeah.
50% of the population reacts to ascorbic acid, and that's what you're talking about. When people say vitamin C, they're not saying, is it a magnesium scroll phosphate? Is it ascorbyl palmitate, L-ascorbic acid 6 palmitate? they just say vitamin C.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about, which the majority of products out there are ascorbic acid. So first of all, number one, and these are patents, the original patents from Dr. Shinsky, Dr. Meisner, and that were that on ascorbic acid, how it works. These are original patents in which it states that in order for vitamin C to work, ascorbic acid, it has to be at a pH of 2.5 or less. So 2.5 or less, boy, that's really, really low. And you're going to have a very substantial segment of the population that's going to react.
Yeah.
Now, if the population that can use it, okay, great. But there's some other issues associated with ascorbic acid. So can I give you a little bit of history?
Yes.
So here's why ascorbic acid was first researched, and a lot of the research came out of Duke University, because it was found that if you get vitamin C, so we're not just saying ascorbic acid, but the bioavailable, of which most of them are, that's an intact molecule, so it doesn't have to be converted. You get it into the skin, and you apply it for 72 hours every day like you would any other skincare product. They found that it gave you complete total sun protection.
It's crazy.
And what it does, essentially, it's not like a sunscreen. It kind of stops the cascading effect. So the cascading effect is when you come in contact with UV light and all these triggers happen and all these nasty things go on and you end up with damage and potentially skin cancer and all of that. Now, you would think, oh my gosh, Duke University could license this because that's what University of Pennsylvania did with retinoic acid. Made $1 gazillion, licensed to ortho, because I could put it in a sunscreen. Mm-hmm. Well, to do that, it sometimes can take, our last sunscreen ingredient was improved, took 20 years to get it through the FDA. So even if you get it through the FDA, you've got to prove that it's stable. You've got to prove all these things. You can't just stick it in there and then 5 days later it's not stable and it doesn't work. And the problem with vitamin C, and if you get to any independent chemist, they're going to agree with this, is something called redox. And that's ascorbic acid. Okay, so redox means reduction and oxidation. Let's take oxidation first. Oxidation is, I have an ascorbic acid product. It's in my bathroom. And it's exposed to sunlight, it's exposed to water, it's exposed to oxygen, all the things that products are exposed to. What that does is it breaks it down immediately.
Yeah.
I've even done research into a product that's, let's say, it's 2 weeks old. It's just been manufactured 2 weeks ago. It's already lost huge amounts. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. And what you see with these products is oftentimes they turn really dark. Now, turning dark doesn't mean that's something bad, but in this case, it has to do with this oxidation. The next thing is redox. And redox means, and how many times have you guys heard, well, I was told if I'm using my retinoid or my glycolic, I can use that at night, but I have to use the vitamin C in the morning by itself. Mm-hmm. Well, the reason is because vitamin C, the ascorbic acid, has to be at pH 2.5. Retinoid needs to be at 4.5 to be effective. Glycolic 3.5. Sometimes pHs can be compatible or you don't lose much, but when you put this with vitamin C, it can actually cause the other ones to be less active or create a lot more irritation. So that's kind of the real simplistic understanding of redox. Now, siesta is a lipid-soluble C, and it's known chemically as L-ascorbic acid 6-palmitate. You remove one molecule of water, one molecule of acid, and you have the lipid-soluble form. Now, first of all, number one, it's a neutral pH. You can use it morning, you can use it night. Our physicians use it with retinoids, they use it with glycolic. It actually helps you to tolerate those. And we could spend an hour going into all the studies because you can go on to the world's largest medical library and you can find probably 2,000 articles on ascorbyl palmitate, both internally and externally, and the benefits. So this is very, very well researched. It's an intact molecule. Body recognizes it, doesn't have to convert it. And there's just so many different benefits. And studies that have been done on acne and lessening pustule count and all kinds of other anti-inflammatory studies. But let me just tell you something. Okay. Because we're really missing the boat here. If we took the vitamin C out of the product, it would be extraordinary. And the reason why is because of DMAE, dimethyl amyl ethanol. It's a big mouthful. Dimethyl amyl ethanol is a precursor to acetylcholine. That is one of your major chemical messengers. Now, this is studies that was done in Alzheimer's, and then it translated into skincare. That's another long story. But every single nerve in your body expresses acetylcholine into the muscle, and it causes the muscle to contract. It's known as correct anatomical muscle positioning. And you could call it muscle tone if you want. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're 60 and you exercise like a fiend. Do you think you're going to have the same muscle tone you did when you were 20?
No. And actually, you have told me to put this serum. This is the serum right here. You have told me to put it
on your neck and behind your ears, right up behind the ear.
You said,
now,
right here.
What happened? This is a study that was presented at the American Academy of Dermatology, double-blind, half-face, random placebo. Okay, so this is a real study. And the individuals who applied the siesta right up on one side of their face, right up to the hairline, on the neck and behind the ear, compared with the other side, nasolabial fold was more pulled back. One eyebrow sometimes was higher than the other. The skin just looked more contoured. Neck looked better. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. And from a medical standpoint, they said that the effect was persistent. Now, that's a medical term, and what does that mean? Well, you use a firming product on your face that you buy at, the department store. And lots of times what they use is they use filming agents. They kind of make the skin look a little tighter and a little firmer. But when you wash your face, or a couple of days later, you're back to where you started. What they found is that, let's just say, for argument's sake, you use it for 3 months. Then you stop using it. Your skin would actually simply age back. You don't lose the effect.
Interesting.
And this is also one of the most powerful anti-inflammatories ever discovered. In terms of its studies on Alzheimer's, it passes the brain-blood barrier. Now, one of the reasons why you cannot survive if you have some of these really fast-growing brain tumors is because even chemotherapy doesn't pass the brain-blood barrier. So it's a fascinating technology, and that's why I say we can argue all day about, is this vitamin C good, or is this vitamin C good, or whatever. And the fact is, ascorbyl palmitate is extraordinary because, and one of the studies shows that it's 50 times more potent than ascorbic acid at 1/4 the amount. And this is studies done on forbyl ester-induced tumors that I believe at University of North Carolina, where forbyl ester-induced tumors are tumors that are induced with a chemical that duplicates sun exposure. The idea was to see, can we cause these tumors to recede? Yes, we can, but lipid-soluble C was 50 times more potent. Studies that have been done, both in vivo and in vitro, by Dr. Oglemarco, who used to be with Sloan Kettering, have found that it stimulates far more collagen. I could go on and on. So the vitamin C is an important factor. But if we don't agree on that, the DMAE is a phenomenal factor in this product.
Well, until I use your siesta, I would have said, no, I'm not using vitamin. I mean, I tried to get out of it, but you said, no, you're going to use this. It's funny. You gave me one of my favorite compliments of my entire life. You said you are a genetic anomaly. I thought, oh my gosh, what an amazing thing to say.
Well, because when you look at Marie, even regardless of probably what skincare she uses, she has very naturally refined skin. So a lot of us struggle. We really have to work to get our pores as small as possible. And I always like to say, I'm a 2-time Accutane failure.
Right, you said
okay?
That. Mm-hmm.
So I had severe cystic acne, and I'm a big believer in Accutane, but it's not a cure. There's no cure for acne. You have to manage it.
Right.
But if you get real close to me and look at my skin, you won't see pores, and you don't see any acne. I never break out. But if I didn't do what I do every day, I would. Mm-hmm. But most of us, we have to really work at that. And I'm not saying that you don't, but you have that genetic underpinning, which you have this very refined skin, which is great because that's something that you have to work with that a lot of people don't have initially.
Well, and I think also you had mentioned the fact that I have spent a lifetime staying away from drugs and alcohol has played a role in that. I want to talk about your product, NeuroSmooth.
Oh, yes.
I think that this is going to be a very interesting, a lot of people are going to want to run out and buy this as soon as they hear what it does. So I've been doing this morning and night. And I know that this is contributing to the smoothness of my face. So
everybody wants glass skin, right?
Yes.
And everybody thinks, oh yeah, I went to TikTok and it's just this one product.
Yeah, wrong.
There's so many things that you have to go through. You can get there. And NeuroSmooth is kind of falls into that category. You know, it's first of all, it's your stratum corneum. Is it really thin and compact? And secondly, it's pore size. Is absence of imperfections, because maybe you have glassy skin, but you got acne.
Right.
It is volume and it's diet. And NeuroSmooth falls into this category. It's a really unique category. Now, I want to make sure that the audience understands that it falls into the category of a neurotoxin, but we're not saying this replaces Botox, because I hate that. If you could put something on your skin that replaced Botox, you'd paralyze your whole face.
Right.
You'd be drooling out of the side of your mouth. So, and that's just a fallacy.
Right.
So this is something that falls into a different category. So Botox goes after dynamic muscle movement and is actually a crease in the muscle. It's not about sun exposure. So when you very artfully go into that little area and you hit that little muscle or grouping of muscles, it kind of disables them temporarily. The crease goes away, but the rest of your face keeps moving. And hopefully you go to a good provider that knows what they're doing. Now, there's another category, though, that's been around for a while, and it's called baby Botox. That's what I call it and what some providers call it. And what it is, it's where they take Botox and they dilute it. And they either microneedle it into the face, so it's not going after dynamic muscle movement, okay? It's not going to do anything for that. Or they stab it kind of with the needle all over the face, so it's very superficial. And what that does is it goes after microcontractions. Now, microcontractions, a good example of it would be your erector pili muscle or goosebumps. Okay, and when you get goosebumps, you can see them, but it's a microcontraction and it also makes your skin kind of red because it brings red to the surface. Well, you have a lot of microcontractions that go on all the time when you're sleeping, all the time that you're not even aware of. And over time, what they tend to do is they can kind of emphasize texture and pore size. Skin doesn't look quite as smooth. It doesn't look quite as glassy. And when people get baby Botox, they're like, oh my gosh, I love my skin. It's so smooth. It's baby-like. It actually can have an effect on helping to kind of normalize the oil a little bit because it kind of relaxes the oil glands. There's just a lot of benefits to doing that. But it's not inexpensive. And most of my providers will say, you know, sometimes it only lasts for 30 days. So maybe you've got some bruising, and then by the time the bruising's over, you got a couple of weeks or so where you're enjoying it, and then it's kind of going away. So I have to tell you, this went beyond my expectations because I came up with this. It's like a math equation. This and this has got to equal this. But how do I get there? And I'm going to tell you, I'm obsessed with this, and everybody else is obsessed with it. And you could, on a professional site, if you're a professional, you can go to the professional site. You can see all the physician testimonies. You can see one of the plastic surgeons that's very big in Arizona, female plastic surgeon, says she's never seen anything in her career that works on pore size this way. But it's the smoothness, the pore size. So is this what you would use for acne? No. Is this what you're going to use for brown discoloration? No. It's a piece of the puzzle,
right?
Something that we haven't had before. And not only that, one more thing that I don't think you and I have ever talked about, but there's something else in here. There's a lot of technologies that supports it, but there's something else. Let's say you get filler. Let's say you do get Botox, or you have some type of a procedure where you're going to get some bruising or some little, recovery. What I put in here, in addition to all of this, is vitamin K, which is now getting substantiation that it's also anti-aging. So vitamin K, we think of that for bruising, right? But we're seeing that it has an effect on vascularity and collagen and some other benefits. So you're not only going to get a benefit when you're using it every day, but if you have a procedure, you're going to really recover more quickly, maybe be less likely to bruise. And I also have Arnica montana, which is an anti-inflammatory and a recovery ingredient.
Right.
So this is something that I'm really proud of this formula. And I'm just going to tell you, I got to warn you because you're going to be obsessed.
I already am.
So anybody who tries this, just know right now you're going to be obsessed with this.
Well, everyone who knows me knows that I'm next to impossible to please when it comes to skincare. And when I first started taking this, or when I first started using this product, I'm going, I haven't gotten Botox since last year. I think it was last summer. And I started looking in the mirror going, I really need to make an appointment. I started using this and I don't have that same.
It gives you a soft landing.
It does.
So we haven't done any clinical studies. This is more anecdotal, but literally everyone says they kind of, you know how you get with Botox, and there's different brands out there, and some of them give you a softer landing than others. But what happens with a lot of people is they literally look in the mirror one morning and go, oh my God, I need it now. Yeah. And your provider says, well, I'm booked up for 3 months. So what this does is this gives you a soft landing. And I hear that constantly with this product.
Yes.
Which is another thing that's really nice, because with our busy lives and everything, we don't want to feel like we just stepped off the cliff and hit the bottom of the canyon.
That's literally, you said it. I mean, I wake up and look in the mirror and go, oh gosh, I got to call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got to make a phone call. But, and I was there when I started to use this product, and now it's reversed it to where I don't feel that urge that I need to run out and go spend hundreds of dollars on that. Okay, so we've been talking about all of these amazing ingredients. Oh boy, here we go. I want to hit the retinol conversation. I worked in the medical spa for years, and everybody was being prescribed retinol, and no matter how often they used it or how much they tried to ease into it, what I was seeing consistently over and over again was that their skin was getting dried out. They weren't liking it. I tried it myself. I was getting that same result. So when I started the Marini Skin Solutions, my instructions by you were, once we get into week 3, I want you to start using it every other night. Mm-hmm. And when that first night came, I go, here we go. I'm going to be on TV in a week, and I just know how this is going to go. And this is different. Mm-hmm. I have not got that same reaction that I've got from any other retinol that I've ever tried. And I remember saying to you, well, what percentage is it? Because that's always been the thing, in the mm-hmm. medical spa, this percent or that percent. Mm-hmm. And you're going, no, that's not it.
It goes beyond. It goes beyond the highest percentage.
Okay. So I feel like you are the only person on the planet that I would ever listen to talk about retinol. The only one that I would ever take seriously. Because so far, everything that you have said, you've been right. So I remember when I started retinol and I didn't want to do it. And I just thought, one of us is going to win this argument. And that was you.
Well, first of all, let me just say that I have worked with prescription retinoids, and I have not found a person yet that I can't acclimate to prescription retinoids beautifully.
Okay.
So, and prescription retinoids are great, but we have another alternative. And typically, if you ask somebody who's on a prescription retinoid, so tell me, what percentage are you on and how often do you use it? Oh, well, I use it maybe once or twice a week. Why is that? Well, because I get red and I peel. So there are a way to get beyond that, but most people don't know, and most doctors at the most are, because of managed healthcare, they spend 10 minutes with you or less. So it's not a conversation that really comes up that's very helpful. And a lot of people don't know how to do this. Now, with that said, I think that using a retinoid should be the law. You should be put in jail if you don't use a retinoid. And I want to talk about why the retinoid is so critical, okay? And I'm going to take this down to a level where I want to really oversimplify the aging process. but this is how I want everyone to understand this. Now, retinoids are regenerative technology. And when we look at the aging process as a whole, and I don't care what wormhole you want to go down and you want to talk about this pathway or that pathway, it boils down to one thing. Your genes are made up of DNA, and some of your genes are expressive genes. What they do is they express out information. It's software. It's your body's software. Imagine if your computer didn't have any software, it'd be a box.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do anything. Well, if you didn't have these instructions, you'd be a puddle of goo on the floor because your cells would have no information, no memory, no way of being able to walk, talk, function, anything. That's it. You're dead. So when you're born, your epigenome is perfect. Those instructions are perfect. And from the moment you're born, everything you touch, everything you eat, everything you do, everything you come in contact with, it's programmed into your DNA. So I just touched my microphone. Now it's in my DNA. And all of those things create compromise to your DNA and how they deliver these messages. RNA takes the message out, but how they deliver it, whether or not they're getting accurate messages. But when you're young and growing, you're in an anabolic state, oh, you're growing so fast, Mother Nature says, these things are going on. We're going to kind of ignore them because we got to get you fully cooked. We want you to procreate. And then, all bets are off. So now you reach around 18 to 20, and yes, you're fully cooked, and you go into a catabolic state. That's a slow decline. And you don't see it much at first, but I hear people in their 20s say, oh, gee, Jan, I wish my pores were smaller. I wish my skin glowed like it used to, or I'm more radiant, all of these different things. And by the age of 35, every person on the face of the earth, if you've got skin, you're going to have abnormal pigmentation. I could go on and on. All these things that happen, the collagen loss, everything. So what that is, those are now your body, it's like a switch got flipped. And your body is reading those compromised instructions. And one of the definitions of aging is a loss of memory and a loss of information in every cell in your body. So if your cells can't remember what to do, they don't know how to do it, they don't do it correctly, and it's an inflammatory process, and it's also a loss of immune function capacity in every organ in the body, including the skin. But when that happens, you're going to pass on. Now, here's why retinoid is so extraordinary. Number one, retinoids, and this is a medical fact accepted, nobody disputes this. The right retinoid, you have retinoid receptor sites in your skin, alpha, beta, gamma. So some retinoids might hit one receptor site or hit another or not hit them or not be bioavailable. But if you've used the right retinoid, you're going to correct instructions coming from your DNA. Do you know how extraordinary that is?
Yeah.
So if Marie has an identical twin sister, they both use the same skincare product. She uses a retinoid, her sister doesn't. She's going to look 10 or 20 years younger than her sister, maybe more.
Yeah.
So that is so critical. Plus, retinoids, again, this is histological studies, biopsies, thicken the dermis 50 to 90%. Do you know what that does for aging? Do you know what it does for acne scar reduction? Do you know what it does for the contour and how tight your skin looks? And think about all the people on these GLP-1 drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is truly extraordinary. Now, our retinoid, and this was a study done by dermatologists, 78% of patients had absolutely no side effects.
I'm in that.
22% had maybe a little minor redness or a little minor flaking, which is easily addressed. You say, okay, well, fine, use it every other night. I usually start people out on every other night anyway. Mm-hmm. And they go right through it. And this is something that'll actually go beyond the highest percentage. There's a lot of other things in there. And you don't have to have just one retinoid formulation because, first of all, duality is something that is specifically for acne. And it is a type of benzoyl peroxide that does not dry.
Let's say that Duality is a Marini skincare solution product.
Yes. Yeah. And it's 2 chambers. And when you mix it together in your hand, you're getting benzoyl peroxide, which does not dry, tested in weather over 120 degrees below zero. Another story. And I can manage the acne, get complete total clearing. That's my secret. And also de-age the appearance skin at the same time. It's amazing. Then we have Luminate Face, which I believe you're using.
I am.
Which actually has all of the technologies in there for brown discoloration, which is a huge issue.
I have noticed that already. I'm seeing my complexion start to even out more.
And we have the retinoid, so we can de-age the appearance of skin. Retinoids are also a gold standard for acne, gold standard for appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, gold standard for discoloration, and a gold standard for rosacea, which is another huge segment of the population. So here's one of the things that I say, Marie.
Yeah.
I don't want another product. You do not need another product. You sitting over there do not need another product. We want a solution. We need a solution.
Yes.
And what do you hear 99% of the marketplace? Oh, well, this is a results-driven line. Well, let me tell you about results. You're going to get a result no matter what.
It might not be a good one.
Right. So it's results-driven. So I throw water on the floor. I just got a result. The floor is wet. Doesn't mean I'm happy about it.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's going to help my acne. It doesn't mean maybe it'll make it worse. Doesn't mean it's going to help my discoloration. It doesn't mean it's going to address one of my concerns. And imagine if you looked in the mirror and you could address every one of your concerns. It's a journey. I always have people, what was the first thing I said to you? Marie, if there was something you could change or improve about your skin, what would it be? She tells me what her number one is.
How much time you got?
And then I said, well, what else? People come up with about 3 or 4 things. And that is your runway.
Yeah.
We address every one of those.
Well, I just want to say to the viewers watching this, I hope you don't mind me saying this. I am an advanced esthetician. I'm a licensed professional. And I highly, highly recommend, if you are going to go on this retinol journey, do it with Marini Skin Solutions, because
thank you.
There has been nothing else that has given me this type of a result, not even close. Anything that I've ever tried in terms of retinol or vitamin C has given me a result that I didn't like. And it's not just on my own face, it's for countless people over the years that have come in. So when it comes to retinol, when it comes to vitamin C, I can honestly tell you, no other brand would I even consider using. Only Marini Skin Solutions. I mean that.
I want to say something, and this is kind of, if you don't mind, kind of tooting your horn. So first of all, if you want to go on this journey, Marie's the person to contact because she's passionate. She's very skilled. She also is a skeptic, which I admire. Yeah. And she is really very quickly grasping this and learning this. And I think she's going to be really superb in being able to determine specifically, what the path is for an individual and to get to that kind of end result. And, people tell me all the time, oh, Jan, I just worked this morning. I just had desk sides with like 12 beauty editors. But the people say to me all the time, oh, Jan, in 30 days, my skin has never been this good. And I always say, you know what? I can get it a whole lot better, and I can.
Yeah, you said that to me.
I can.
I get a text message from you. How's your skin look? And I say, it's doing great. Well, it's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get better. You are such an expert on so many ingredients. So, for me, it's just, I could talk to you for hours, and I could get lost in these conversations. There is an ingredient right now. Well, there's something that is getting a lot of momentum right now that you and I have discussed, and I think that it's something that should be discussed on the podcast because so many people are talking about exosomes. What are your thoughts?
Well, actually, the momentum is kind of decreasing. It really peaked. But let me just tell you, I want to give everybody the bottom line. I think exosomes are amazing, but not topically. They're little microscopic vesicles that are in your bloodstream, and they're in the fat tissue. And these microscopic blood vessels are carriers. So they can carry some really good things and do some extraordinary things. They can also carry bad things. So it can go both ways. And when you take fat out of somebody's body, preferably in an area that has had less sun exposure, like let's say up between your thighs, that skin is real milky and non-damaged, and you put it in the face, what we know is that not only does it create volume, but it re-educates the skin around it. So the skin looks younger. Why is that? Because the fat has stem cells and it has exosomes. But those exosomes are intact and they have to have a blood supply. Guys, if I handed you a jar of fat and I said, put this on your face because it's a fat transfer, you'd laugh at me. Nobody's that dumb.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
So you have to inject it. And even when you inject it, there can be asymmetry. Sometimes the fat cells don't survive, but what survives must have a blood supply. Exosomes must have a blood supply. And when you take this delicate little vesicle, that even if I have fat and I walk across the room, and depending on how I get rid of the other things in there that I don't want, I can destroy everything. It's that delicate. So you have this skincare product that has to go through centrifuge. I can't even tell you what products go through, and some have to go through more than others. And you think that there are live exosomes in there?
Oh, they'll tell you that.
I wish I could tell you there are, but take a microscope. What if there's no live exosome? Now, the exosomes oftentimes are extracted from umbilical cord. They're extracted from certain aspects of different aspects of the human body. Umbilical cord is popular. So you're going to get growth factors and you're going to get other things. And then they put peptides in the formula. They put other things. And so, hey, you put it on and you're probably going to see something positive. Is it from the exosomes? No. Now there's another way of using exosomes for physician offices can come in a freeze-dried. And oftentimes they will put this on after laser resurfacing or after microneedling or something like that. Now, it probably is helpful, and I've talked to a lot of physicians that have done some of their own before and afters and studies and comparisons. One physician said 1/3 of the time, we don't think it does anything. 1/3 of the time, the side that we put it on looks worse than the other side, and 1/3 of the time we think maybe it helps a little bit in redness and in the healing process. But it's not going to last because it doesn't have a blood supply.
Yeah.
I just got to tell you, there are other things that'll go so far beyond that. And I just read yesterday an article from medical journal. I get probably 20 or more medical journals a month. And it was talking about exosomes in terms of what it could do for atrophic scarring or for keloids. And it went through, you can get exosomes from macrophages and exosomes from this. I mean, it went through this huge list where you could get exosomes from. And then it said, with that said, probably what we would need to do in the future is it's going to have to be bioengineered because the consistency in what we're getting from these sources are so unpredictable. The quality is so unpredictable. And then what you extrapolate from this article is that, number one, we might not be there for many years because we can't just take a syringe of your blood and take out all of the,
platelets,
these vesicles. So again, there could be other things in the product that might have a nice effect on the skin. That's not going to be regenerative. It's not.
Right. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the product that has just launched. Brand new product. Everybody's been talking about this in your camp. Oh my goodness. So this is the Reboot.
Yes.
And you and I have had lots of conversations about this. So tell everybody.
Okay. Let me tell you what Reboot is. You guys know what it is already, but it gets joked about. So everybody says, oh yeah, so-and-so had a salmon sperm facial. Let me just tell you, this is called PDRM, and it's not salmon sperm. It comes from salmon sperm. It's basically DNA and RNA. So PDRN stands for polydioxide ribonucleotide. You have to remember that. But just remember, it is taken from salmon sperm. And if you were allergic to salmon, you could still use it because it doesn't have any remnants. It has nothing to do really with the salmon itself. It's a component of it. And it's very compatible with human skin. Now, we're not physiologically compatible with animals and all these other species and things like that. But there are two things that I can point out. One would be pig valves. Historically, for decades, we've used pig valves as a replacement for human valves, and we don't take anti-rejection drugs. We accept it. And another one is this PDRN. There's probably a few other things out there. But this is very compatible, and there's a medical history behind this that's really interesting, that gives it a lot of credibility. So for years, doctors have used PDRN either by injecting it or putting it on topically on pressure wounds or diabetic ulcers that don't heal. So diabetics in particular, when you get down to your lower extremities, you have less blood supply and the blood vessels are already damaged. And so you get a wound, it doesn't heal, and what happens? It turns to gangrene and you have an amputation. Right. This is why so many diabetics have amputations. Well, they can actually inject the PDRN or put it on topically in some cases, and it completely regenerates tissue. Now, I want you to think about that. That's not just collagen. That's not just lash. Think about what goes into regenerating tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Take your favorite moisturizer and put it on a diabetic pressure wound and see if it does anything.
Yeah.
So this is really, really groundbreaking. Now, what happened is that it started to be adopted aesthetically, but primarily in Korea. And I don't want everybody to think, oh yeah, Korean products are so much better than U.S. products. No, it's not the case. Some of the best skin I've seen is in Korea, and some of the worst skin I've seen in Korea.
With
and
me.
I look at products from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So this just happens to be something that they were able to do because in the U.S. it's not legal to inject it into the face at this point. Now, maybe somebody will start doing it off-label, but at this moment, it's not. So in Korea, as many as 85% of doctors were injecting it. They would mix it with filler, and the belief was that it would actually improve the filler. And a lot of doctors started injecting it on its own, and some of the data suggests that it may actually work better than with a filler just on its own because it's more of a biostimulant. So there are also topical products. Now, again, I worked on this for 2.5 years or so, and I just researched so many products because you can go on Amazon and find a PDRN product. But
it's all over
every
TikTok.
product that I looked at, with the exception, I think, one that came out of Canada, which maybe had 0.5%, which is under the therapeutic value, either didn't even have it on the label. They said it on the front of the label, but not the ingredient listing, or the percentages were so small that there's not really going to have a therapeutic value, and it's just poorly formulated. All I can tell you is that it really is amazing and groundbreaking. This is a regenerative technology. Real quick, difference between rejuvenation and regeneration.
Yes.
Okay. Marie buys a house.
Yeah.
She wants to rent it out. The paint is peeling. The windows are dirty. The grass is brown. It looks really bad. So she paints the house. She cleans the windows. The grass is now all nice and green. The house looks so much better. It looks refreshed. It looks presentable. It looks more contemporary. That's rejuvenation. Regeneration is if we rebuild the house. Big difference.
Yeah.
It can look good on the outside. And you could have bad plumbing and bad wiring, and the house is a wreck. So regeneration, when you have regeneration, like with a retinoid, or in this case, it spills over into rejuvenation. Together, they're very synergistic. So it's not that you don't want to have rejuvenation, but rejuvenation is a much more superficial, whereas regeneration is much more global. And this, we now have 3 regenerative technologies. There's regeneration booster, which is telomeres and telomerase enzyme, and there's reboot, and there is the retinoid. Now, none of these cannibalize each other because I would never stop using my retinoid. I wouldn't stop using my regeneration booster. The retinoid is correcting instructions. But once those instructions are received, those cells are already compromised. And what I believe, and as much as my research shows, and there's still a lot of research to go in this area, is that what it's doing, what the PDRN is doing, is it's actually improving the execution of those instructions. So now we've got something that sort of puts retinoids on steroids in a sense. And I'm very high on this. And the feedback we've been getting is extraordinary. And I want to mention one more thing about it. So I'd get all of this feedback on, my lines, my wrinkles, my texture, my smoothness, all of these different things. But the one comment that was universal, that everyone commented on, was more volume.
Mm.
I'll tell you why that's important. 50% of what we perceive as aging is loss of volume.
Yep.
And guess where we're at right now? GLP-1 drugs.
Yeah.
Do you know that this marketplace is exploding? We're going to have as many as 65% of all adults on GLP-1 drugs.
Extraordinary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what have we heard about that? Well, one of the things we hear is that in some individuals, we don't know why. I know people on GLP-1 and they've had normal fat loss, but in some individuals, they have disproportionate fat loss in their face.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things, we don't quite know why that is. One of the things, in fact, I just read today in a journal article, is that sometimes people have, before they ever go on the GLP-1, certain defects. In other words, the ligaments underneath or the muscles are starting to pull down, or there's other things where the fat is starting to move in different areas because fat changes in your face. It can move in the wrong area. You want to put it back where it belongs.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know that. But when they go on the GLP-1, it emphasizes that. In other words, it kind of speeds up the process for whatever reason, and it could be something else. It could be something in that person's genetics. To be able to have something that can help to counteract that. Retinoid, the reboot, regeneration booster.
Mm-hmm.
I think every single person that takes that journey is going to want to have that option.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that the skincare journey that I am on with you right now has been so extraordinary in such a positive way. And again, I just feel like what a unique opportunity to be guided by the woman who has so thoughtfully created all of these extraordinary products. It is so exciting. And all of my clients are going, so what do you think? So what do you think? So what do you think? I've already had my clients go on and order that eye gel that, by the way, has retinol in it.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't
gel
hurt your under eye area.
No, it does not. No, I see benefits from that already. I've had them order BioClear. So yeah, I've got people now starting to do it. And I can say Melanie, who's the founder of Glamlink Edit, are so beyond thrilled and grateful that you would come here and do the Beauty Vault podcast today. It's just such a blessing to have you in my life and now to consider you as a friend.
But it's such a pleasure, and I have so much fun. I think hopefully you guys can tell that I love talking about these things.
Yeah, I think so.
You get me going, but and I really enjoy it, and it's fun. And the only thing that I miss right now is that we can't get questions live because I love to get questions. But maybe if we do this again, you can get questions ahead of time,
right?
And
maybe we'll just do a little Instagram live or something like that next time.
I get interviewed every day on Instagram. Yeah. So that's one of the things I love to do. So absolutely we have to do that.
So everybody follow Marini Skin Solutions on Instagram and go check out mariniskinsolutions.com, and you can go find a lot of these products that we have been discussing today. She has, 90 SKUs?
Something like that. But some of them are doubles, like, there's a creamer, there's a serum, it's the same product. Yeah. And also, I have my own YouTube channel.
Okay.
Which I've never really publicized or anything, but a lot of live consultations that are on there, just a lot of different things and little snippets and things like that. But
well, I know what I'm subscribing to today. Later on, I'll be right there. So thank you again for coming.
I can't. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Until next time.
Yes.